you from the Hudson Media Group studio. This is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 100 Latino, via the Latino Spirit Online magazine, and the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you're all having a wonderful month of June, ladies and gentlemen. It is Father's Day weekend coming up, so a shout out to all the dads, especially my dad and my uncle, who I love immensely. And you know what? Just got to celebrate early Father's Day gift with them last weekend, going to Yankee Stadium, seeing our Yankees, our first place Yankees, our best record in baseball Yankees, dismantle the lowly Chicago Cubs. So, great times with them. And hopefully everyone gets a great Father's Day weekend. Great weather as well, folks. But here, there's always a lot to talk about. So let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me discuss this topic at length on numerous other broadcasts and mentioned some of the more insufferable leftists in the state of New Jersey. Well, it bears repeating because, of course, at some point you knew these activists were going to get a W in court, and, they certainly did. And let me just sort of give you some details and sort of break this down so you can understand why, quite frankly, no one should be celebrating because of these insufferable leftists that we're sort of surrounded by, not just in Hudson County, but throughout the state of New Jersey. Now, it was reported last week by Jake Marr, with the Jersey Journal. Again, shout out to him. Great work that he's doing there at the Jersey Journal, where a Hudson County Superior Court judge threw out a restraining order against protesters who gathered outside Hudson County Executive Tom DeJesus' home last year, as a matter of fact, in December 2020, to protest an extension of the county jail's contract to the federal immigration and customs enforcement detainees. Now, according to Amy Torres, an insufferable leftist, but more on her later, she said, "This is a very welcome news, and we're glad the judge issued the ruling that he did." Torres and other defendants were represented by the New Jersey ACLU and Frank Corrado of Barry, Corrado, and Grossi. Now, the decision brought an end to a legal drama that has played out since Torres and others who claim to do it so innocently took part in a series of protests at night outside of DeJesus' home in early December 2020 against an agreement with ICE. Now, according to the judge's opinion, DeJesus said that he was, quote, imprisoned in his home during the protest. Protesters chanted and used megaphones and other noise-making equipment like karaoke machines, woodblocks, and drums. At one point, Hudson County Sheriff Frank Scolari looked for a way to chase the peaceful protesters away, according to the testimony he gave in court last June. After several nights in a row of protests, DeJesus and other county commissioners applied for and were granted a restraining order limiting the number of people who could demonstrate and during what hours demonstrations could be held. Now, that restraining order is what the court officially dismissed last week on the grounds that the conditions for protesting that it imposed were unreasonable. Now, according to Judge Jeffrey Jablonski, the ruling also rejected much of the way DeJesus characterized the protests, which DeJesus referred to as, quote, nasty, out of control, and relentless. Well, you know what? If you know Amy Torres and you know the rest of the insufferable leftists with the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, some members of the ACLU, even people like Patty Campos Medina, more on her later, we all know that, quite frankly, nasty, out of control, and relentless seems to be their bread and butter. Now, also, the, quote, objective record evidence contradicts DeJesus' recollection of the events and adversely impacts on his credibility. Specifically, the ruling said the protests were smaller, more peaceful, and less disruptive than DeJesus claimed. Quote, despite the fact that the plaintiff called the police and contacted other law enforcement agencies, the plaintiff admitted that he didn't fear for his safety at any time, according to Jablonski. Now, County Executive Tom DeJesus cannot be reached in time for comment as this story was published on the Jersey Journal website. Now, Hudson County relations with ICE has been a target of local activists for years. Now, the county announced in September of 2021 that it would end the practice of housing ICE detainees at the county jail, thus reversing an earlier decision to extend the arrangement for another decade that it made in late 2020, and that subsequently prompted the protests. Now, the county jail housed a peak of about 700 ICE detainees in 2018, but the number has since fallen significantly by the time the contract ended. Those involved in the protest reported being pleased by the news that the restraining order was lifted, even though that the move came so late, but didn't back off from criticizing DeJesus for the legal battle. Once again, the insufferable leftist Amy Torres, quote, the fact that the county executive used public county taxpayer dollars to suppress residents' First Amendment rights and then subject the county to a lawsuit of this time and length is really abhorrent. Talk about, it's funny when someone like Amy Torres uses the word abhorrent when you read her social media. That's an abhorrent person, folks. But again, more on that later. I feel like it's an affirmation that we have these rights, said Jake Epfros, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, another useless left-wing group, who was one of the 4 people arrested, thank the Lord, as a result of the restraining order. Because we all know that socialists certainly know how to behave themselves, right? Yeah, okay. Epfros linked the legal victory to a growing wave of support for progressive activism. No, that's not true. Jesus Christ, Jake. I mean, I know weed's illegal in New Jersey, but you're smoking a really good batch lately if you think that's the case. Again, more on that guy later. Now, we know that the political machine is starting to take notice and feel a little more concerned about how we're building this working class organization. So this was just one manifestation of it. Well, folks, again, great story here and great detail by Jake Marr with the Jersey Journal. But let me break this down even further because I've talked about it at length on this program, whether it's Amy Torres, whether it's Patricia Campos Medina, her insufferable husband too, Bobby, as well as the Democratic Socialists of America, the Progressive Democrats of Hudson County, or the Progressive Democrats of New Jersey. This is what they don't get about ICE contracts with county jails. See, folks, when someone, now again, here's a history lesson because the history professor has to feel like, he has to have class here to remind you all. Okay, after September 11th, 2001, the Department of Homeland Security was formed, thus consolidating a lot of federal agencies. So it used to be Immigration and Naturalization was then sort of consolidated into ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So since then, they've been in charge really of enforcing our borders and enforcing immigration law. Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and thus subsequently now Sleepy Joe Biden, obviously, all issue directives via the Attorney General at the Department of Justice and how ICE operates. Now, what's interesting is that all these years, these ICE detainees obviously were housed in Hudson County Jail, in Kearney. But one of the things that was interesting is for a lot of them who are here illegally, right, and why we're rewarding people for being here illegally is beyond me. And that's something that really irritates me about people that are clueless, like Amy Torres and Patricia Campos Medina. Yeah, folks, check out these photos of them. I mean, talk about insufferable women and the rest of the crew there, right? Whether it's the New Jersey Alliance of Immigrant Justice or, Make the Road New Jersey or whatever. Like, there's no shortage of insufferable leftists in the state. But what these fools don't get is the fact that these ICE contracts were beneficial to the counties, right? They were receiving funding from the federal government, and subsequently for any attorneys who probably work pro bono to help illegals. Well, guess what? Now you're making their jobs more difficult because if you're transporting illegals out of the county and subsequently out of the state, maybe they're further away from their families or friends who they've come to rely on since being in the United States illegally. Right? So instead of maybe going to Kearney, attorneys that I know will have to travel to Delaware, Pennsylvania, maybe even as far out west as Ohio. That's a pain, folks. So again, it's sort of doing a disservice to their clients because they can't see their clients. But never mind that. Again, it goes back to counties getting federal dollars from Washington for housing these detainees. And when counties don't have that revenue stream, guess what's going to happen? And again, this is not a knock against the county commissioners because I happen to know a lot of them, whether it's Chairman Anthony Veneri, who's also the new chairman of the Hudson County Democratic Organization, so congrats to Anthony, or also Anthony Romano, as well as others. Guess what's going to happen when that revenue stream isn't there? They're going to have to raise taxes at some point to make up for that money. But again, folks, this is what people, like all these social justice clowns and the woke fools like Amy Torres and Patricia Campos Medina, who, by the way, folks, it's really alarming because we have the same amount of graduate degrees, but if you've ever met a woman who is as clueless about economics, about policy, and it's ironic because she works at an institute concerning policy. So talk about irony there, folks. Or whether it's them or Make the Road New Jersey or, again, all these insufferable left-wing organizations that coddle illegals, this is a bad moment here. Because you know what? They're never going to be peaceful. They were never going to be orderly, and they were never going to be, in a way that's respectful. If we've known anything about the left, folks, right, we've learned it during the summer of 2020, right, when leftists were burning down public and private buildings, looting businesses, engaging in vandalism, right, for, BLM, for example, by large mansions, right, or their way of commemorating a career criminal like George Floyd. The problem is that we've come to know that leftist activists and protesters are never orderly. So while the judge is stating that Tom DeGee's life wasn't in danger because Tom said that, right, doesn't mean that they're not being a nuisance. I know where Tom lives. He lives in the Jersey City Heights. I've talked to Tom off the air. I've talked to his daughter off the air. Okay, it's a quiet neighborhood in the Heights. And there are a lot of elderly members of the community that also reside on that block. Do you think at night that it's fair for elderly residents to have to sit there and endure, insufferable, whiny, coddled little whatever? I mean, I can't use the word I'd like to use to describe Amy Torres or Patricia Campos Medina because it's not good for the air. But the point is that, they're not going to be orderly. They're not going to be civil, okay? Because when it comes to getting their way, yeah, it's law by tantrums, right? Or rule by tantrums. That's how this woke mob and leftists operate. So my heart goes out to Tom DeGee's and that entire block in the community who now has to, maybe endure them if these activists want to protest again. Because folks, if it's not about this ICE contract that was subsequently dissolved, they'll bitch and moan about something else. Because again, people like Amy Torres, people like Patricia Campos Medina, with that god-awful show, if you ever watch it on YouTube, with 6 views that she gets, if she's lucky, on a weekly basis. Or Make the Road New Jersey, or the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. I mean, folks, they'll find a way to bitch about something else because they live to bitch. They bitch to live. That's what they do. And that's not misogyny. That's not being a sexist. That's not someone who hates women. No, because I love women. Okay? Not these women, obviously, not all. But the problem is that these sort of antics won't go away anytime soon. So yes, they got to win in court. Yes, the ACLU helped them, as well as that other law firm that I'm assuming probably represented them pro bono, right? Because, whenever get your name in the paper, represent left-wing causes, which again is something that many here in the state love to do, especially when it comes to coddling illegals. Yes, folks, illegals. It's not undocumented. It's not, people who are foreign nationals. They are illegals. If you're here illegally, you're an illegal. Stop with the semantics, because people like Amy Torres live on that. People like, Patty Campos Medina lives on that too, right? As well as all these insufferable organizations. If they'll ever be intellectually honest, well, we might have to wait until the New York Mets win a World Series. That's how long we're going to wait for these organizations to ever really get it right. But unfortunately, folks, hey, it's the law of the land. The courts ruled. Good for them. Good for these leftists getting a win. But you know what? They're not helping their cause, and they're not helping get people on their side, because as long as they continue to act like children and have meltdowns and tantrums and engage in demonization of anyone who dares to oppose them or anyone who dares to criticize them, like yours truly. Yeah, I've gotten some vitriol on social media. That's okay. That's fine. It just means people are watching. But again, when it comes to stuff like this and seeing leftists win ultimately, it's really a bad thing for New Jersey, and ultimately it's a bad thing for America. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now to some local stories for your review, and let's get a little lighthearted here, ladies and gentlemen, as the 4th of July is quickly approaching, and a shout out to Ron Zentlinger with the Jersey Journal for his report on this story. Now, it was published this week that Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop has a good feeling about the city's 4th of July celebration. Florida, whose hits include Low, Wild Ones, and Good Feeling, will be the headline performer at the day-long event at the Exchange Place downtown, where the mayor, the city council, the Office of Cultural Affairs, and Exchange Place Alliance will be hosting the annual Downtown Jersey City 4th of July Festival. In addition, NBA legend and Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, a.k.a. The Diesel, and radio personality Funk Flex will also perform at the annual event that has featured Snoop Dogg, Akon, and Pitbull in previous years. Quote, when we started doing this again after an 8 to 9 year hiatus, we've been gradually trying to build it into one of the most significant 4th of July celebrations in the country. And I always thought that we had the ability to do so because no place else has the Statue of Liberty, no place else has Ellis Island, and no place else has the New York skyline. And no place else has our community with our diversity and our population and our density. Again, that's a statement from Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop this week. In addition, quote, he also said, we have all the ingredients to do something special. Now, the Village People and Jersey City's own Kool and the Gang have also performed at the event, which city officials say has drawn as many as 150,000 from all over the tri-state area. In addition to that, the mayor said, quote, we are trying to get better and more significant acts every year. We're trying to find artists who are mainstream with a significant number of songs that a lot of people know, not to get anything that's too edgy or too out there or too new. Folks, listen, I've gone to this event. It's a fun time. As a matter of fact, I wore my Liberals Suck t-shirt. So if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, obviously you've seen that in my profile picture. I got to tell you, I got enormous amount of praise for that shirt. And I'll probably wear my Biden Sucks t-shirt that you see me on social media with, probably coming up for this festival. But folks, without question, after 2 years of COVID, and even during the summer of 2020, when we were home, locked in our homes, watching TV, watching buildings get vandalized and looted and, and destroyed by BLM and everything else, we were able to sort of, watch the 4th of July, but from a distance. It's good to be able to do that openly. I went last year in downtown Jersey City. A lot of great food trucks, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And even sort of a portable beer garden was also available near Exchange Place. So if you haven't made any plans to go away for the 4th of July, check out downtown Jersey City, folks. You won't be disappointed. Again, who knows how close you get to see Florida and even Shaquille O'Neal perform, because it might be many rows deep. But in any event, it should be a fun time, good weather, and another important reason to celebrate the birthday of the greatest country in the world. Yes, folks, it's always the US of A. Now it's back to politics locally, and a special thank you to John Hines with the Hudson County View for his report on this story. Now, he published this week that Wardy Councilman James Solomon will be putting up a resolution supporting the Jersey Journal Guild's call for fair wages. Now, the councilman put up a resolution supporting a call for fair wages, stating that, quote, local media is our bedrock to uncover corruption and educate Jersey City residents about their government. Kind of interesting, though, about James Solomon sort of talking out of both sides of his mouth when he won't go on every sort of, media show. He kind of shunned me in recent years because maybe, I don't subscribe to his, left-wing politics. But again, more on that later about James. Now, the Jersey Journal Guild is the union representing the reporters and the staff of the Jersey Journal. Now, despite the increasing cost of living in Jersey City and nearby municipalities in Hudson County, the local newspaper's award-winning staff has only seen a 4% raise in wages over the last decade. Solomon also went on to say, Terry West, which is the unit chair of the Jersey Journal Guild, said, I'm optimistic that the municipal council will overwhelmingly support this resolution that recognizes the Jersey Journal staff's commitment to covering Jersey City and the fair wages that are necessary to sustain that effort. She also went on to say, I also hope that a show of support from the community will convince management to do the right thing and offer more significant wage increases than they have thus far. Now, in a Twitter thread released this week, the Jersey Journal Guild indicated that they've been at the bargaining table for a new contract for almost a full calendar year, also noting that the paper did not miss a single day of coverage during the pandemic. In addition to that, Josh Rosario, a member of the Guild and also a reporter, who I featured here, and a good job by him because he always puts out good stuff, quote, I have fallen in love with Jersey City since I started covering it. It would be great to be able to afford to live in the cities that we cover. I hope that the support shown by the municipal council will guide the newspaper towards giving fair wages, benefits, and worker protections to its award-winning staff. Solomon also expressed the importance of local press and optimism that the resolution would pass easily. Well, James, let's be honest, that's not true. You don't really value local press because you're not always accessible to local press, vis-a-vis yours truly with the 5-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which, by the way, folks, you can check out at blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson, where, I was the only guy giving you coverage when you were in a runoff against Rebecca Symes in 2017. But I guess, once you hit the big time, you kind of forget people that help put you there. But again, my pet peeve and extra grind isn't really with James, but sort of maybe some of the hidden agenda that James might have with this. Now, on face value, it's great that James is sticking up for journalists locally, and especially the Jersey Journal, when they haven't been fairly compensated for so many years. And folks, a 4% increase, that's not anything, especially when the cost of living is going up, right? Grocery shopping is more expensive. Thanks, Sleepy Joe. Gas prices are more expensive. Thanks, Sleepy Joe. Baby formula maybe isn't readily available for new moms, right, as they're trying to take care of their babies. Thanks, Sleepy Joe. So, again, it's a lot of things that are sort of at play here. So it got me thinking that, at face value, maybe James's intentions are are good. But you know what? I came across a good editorial, and a shout out to Aaron Morrill, the publisher of the Jersey City Times this week, for publishing something that really, really got my attention. Now, he wrote I'm going to read the whole thing, but I'll read just some excerpts that are really interesting. Aaron Morrill published, yesterday, Wardy Councilman James Solomon sent out a press release announcing that he will sponsor a resolution supporting a fair contract between the reporters and staff of the Jersey Journal and the newspaper's owner, Advance Media. He went on to say, obviously there's a few different things there. Now, it's hard to blame Terry West and Josh Rosario for wanting to accept the city council support, if indeed Advance is underpaying them and can pay more, but they shouldn't. Now, again, what was interesting by Morrill to point out this week is that the Society of Professional Journalists, which I'm a member of, by the way, Their code of ethics states plainly that journalists should, quote, refuse gifts, favors, fees, free travel, and special treatment and avoid political and other outside activities that may compromise integrity or impartiality or may damage credibility. By accepting this help, West, Rosario, and their colleagues at the Jersey Journal Guild may feel ultimately indebted to Solomon and other council members who will ultimately vote in favor of the resolution. Similarly, it would only be human for Solomon to expect some reciprocity from the journal reporters at some moment in time. When asked about the potential conflict, Solomon countered that he was, quote, pissing off the editors who actually control what gets printed. I'm not just currying favor with one group and there's no consequence. I'm upsetting the people who have more power. Well, Aaron said it very succinctly. We don't buy it. Solomon gives the journal's writers too little credit. When covering City Hall, they can choose which stories to pitch and what facts to include or leave out. If Solomon believes what he said in his press release, that, quote, the local media is our bedrock to uncover corruption and educate Jersey City residents about their government, he should let the journal's writers and staff fight their own battle, no matter how sympathetic he may be. In our view, the journal's very talented writers have been far too easy in City Hall as it is, and this won't help. Interesting take from Aaron Morrell, and I have to say, though, folks, he's right on this. Again, on face value, it might seem very noble and well-intentioned by James Solomon to stick up for the little guy, right? Because that's what a lot of progressives like to do, right? Oh, let's stick up for the little guy. Let's make sure there's a living wage or a fair wage. I don't disagree, ladies and gentlemen, that the Jersey Journal should be paying their very exceptional journalists and writers more. They should. They're putting out great work, and they have been for years. Folks, I've been reading the Jersey Journal since it was really relatively accessible via print. Obviously, it's more accessible now online. People don't really buy the print copy of it, but still, it's a great source of news. But you know what? Aaron Morrell with the Jersey Times, he's right on this. At some point, you know what? That bill's going to come due when it comes to the Jersey Journal. And when Solomon wants favorable coverage for him, maybe not for City Hall or for other members of the council or for the mayor himself, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of Stephen Fulop, so don't get it twisted, folks. I have a lot to say about my criticisms of Stephen Fulop. But let's be honest. At some point, that bill's going to come due, and I think the Jersey Journal would be wise to make sure to avoid any perception of impropriety or bias by accepting the councilman's help. Aaron Morrell's right. Let them fight their own battles. They're a union. Let them fight their own battles with management and get the pay raise that they deserve. They can get media coverage. Folks, I'll continue talking about this and making sure that I'll beat the drums about the Jersey Journal writers and staff that deserve to get better compensation. I'll stand up for them because I'm not in government. I'm an opinion journalist, an award-winning opinion journalist at that. But I'll continue doing that for them. I don't think someone like James Solomon should be doing it. No matter how well-intentioned it may appear, folks, there's always an agenda. And again, I don't want to accuse James of being the only politician to have an agenda. He wouldn't be the first, and he certainly won't be the last. But in this case, he should stay out of it. So shout out to Aaron Morrell with the Jersey City Times for an exceptional editorial sort of rebuking what James Solomon is attempting to do and really shedding light on the realities of collective bargaining and, quite frankly, what the Jersey Journal should be doing instead of what they're not doing. You can always rely on Sophie Nieto Munoz from the New Jersey Monitor to publish yet another bleeding heart, woke, leftist article when it comes to that news source. And again, shout out to Terrence McDonald, the editor, because I know him personally. He's a good guy, used to write for the Jersey Journal. But sometimes, folks, when you see these articles, it just makes your blood boil. And of course, Sophie's really good at that because she likes to engage in semantics. But she did report this week that in New Jersey, statutes about education, taxes, and even lottery prizes undocumented immigrants are referred to as illegal aliens more than 80 times. Now, that term may not remain there too long under a new bill that would change the outdated term to a more humanizing one. Jesus Christ, like, who cares in this economy with everything going on? Is that what we're really focusing on, folks? Now, according to State Senator Nilsa Cruz Perez, another insufferable leftist Democrat from Camden County, when I hear alien, I think of another planet. Well, okay. Well, clearly, Nilsa maybe never read a history book, but okay. That's what we use that word for, not people just because they're from another country. It's important that they know that they are welcome here. Now, the legislation proposed by State Senator Nilsa Cruz Perez, S259, would replace all references to aliens and illegal aliens in New Jersey statutes with foreign national and undocumented foreign national. Yes, make things more difficult for New Jerseyans when a lot of them hate speaking enough as it is, Nilsa, Jesus Christ. Now, under the bill, the only time aliens would be allowed to describe immigrants in legislation or documents from state agencies is when quoting someone or referring to another state or federal agency's text. Cruz Perez, who is of Puerto Rican descent and is a member of the Latino Legislative Caucus, says she introduced the bill to remove the insulting term because it dehumanizes immigrants. No, it doesn't, Nilsa. Stop with your nonsense. I mean, Jesus Christ. The bill refers to the phrase as offensive language and says that the country's law should refrain from language that ostracizes people born outside the United States. The term alien also adds to the stigma that immigrants are made to feel and invalidates their contributions. Now, New Jersey is home to more than 460,000 illegals, I'm going to call them what they are, illegals, including more than 130,000 who pay taxes. Now, a study by another left-wing organization, Make the Road New Jersey, estimated that illegals contributed $1 billion to the state's unemployment fund over the last 10 years. These are people who put food on our table, who work, and who are part of the community, according to Cruz Perez. Well, this is the thing, Senator, and to Make the Road New Jersey and all these insufferable left-wing activists. Folks, let's stop with the semantics. Okay, if I decide to go to Pennsylvania and go to a gun show and purchase a firearm and bring it back to New Jersey without registering it, without reporting it, and an officer sees it in my car, and the cop's not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, is that an undocumented weapon in your car?" No, he's going to say, "Is that your gun? Is it legal or is it illegal?" Folks, it's the same thing when it comes to sovereignty and borders, and it comes to our immigration laws. But someone like Nilsa Cruz Perez, right? I think that's her name. Yeah, I'm sorry. And as well as Sophie Nieto Munoz, who loves to publish this stuff, as well as all these left-wing organizations, right? Like I mentioned before, Amy Torres, Patricia Campos Medina, and all these like useless woke fools and social justice clowns. Yes, they get off on this stuff. And let's be honest, here in New Jersey, we coddle illegals enough as it is. Add one more to the list, again, with State Senator Nilsa Cruz Perez. Yes, one of these Puerto Ricans, that wants to be all about, I'm all about Latinas and Latinos, and I want to make sure that no one's dehumanized. No, sir, no one's dehumanized. Okay? No one's being vilified or anything. But we need to call things for what they are. Again, as an academic, it's important to not engage in semantics, but engage in things that are factually accurate. And you don't seem willing to do that. You just rather cater to the woke mob, cater to all the leftists in New Jersey. And I guess, listen, in this legislature, this will certainly pass because there are many other woke fools and social justice clowns that are your colleagues in the state legislature. And that's our show for this week. Once again, to check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group, check out their sites, www.hmgtvshows.com and www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to check out the Hudson Media Group on their YouTube page. Make sure you like them on Facebook and follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. Check out all the recent episodes of the 5-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which will return next week with new episodes at www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. You can check out the episodes and listen to them anywhere, anytime from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. In advance, folks, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there and all to you single moms who also have to play the role of dads as well. Shout out to all of you for everything that you do, especially my dad and my uncle. Love you both immensely. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine, and the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator. Yes, it's me, folks. It's Fernando Uribe saying so long, and as always, here with the Hudson Media Group and Talking Politics, thank you so much for watching.